Welcome to Classics with Siamese. This lesson is on unity and, thank you, disunity in the Greeks. And this is an important concept, that the degree to which the Greeks are actually unified. And I think one of the stereotypes is that Greeks are unified, that there is some kind of sense of Greekness. But Herodotus makes it really clear that the Greeks were not united in a political sense when fighting the Persians. Who joined the Greek side, who joined the Persian side, because certain Greek cities did, and who stayed neutral, and why did they stay neutral, and the degree to which the Greeks were unified is actually really important for the course. And you could get an exam question on Greek unity in Herodotus for 20-mark questions, and Greek unity as a depiction could easily be part of a bigger 30-mark question. So Greek unity in Herodotus, but also the degree to which the Greeks are depicted as unified in Aeschylus's Persians. So not something that you'd take much out of Medea necessarily. So unity and disunity is really important. I think one interesting way of thinking about unity and disunity is unity in a kind of political sense, where the Greeks are clearly not unified. But once battles start, the Greeks tend to be highly unified, not exclusively, but they tend to be very, very unified in their behavior, in their motivations, and in their actions. So let's have a look at political unity and disunity. So before we do that, we just want to have a very quick look at an amazing story in terms of the difference between Greeks and barbarians, that of Sperthias and Bulis. So it's quite a short little story, and I would like you to read 7.134 to 136, jot down a few key ideas. So I've put 3 up on the screen, but I'm always expecting you to do more. Now, if you want a little bit of a reminder of the issue with the heralds, then just read 7.133, which reminds you of what happened. And the problem we're looking at here is the execution of the Persian heralds. So even though the Greeks did it, or rather the Spartans and the Athenians did it, in an attempt to show their refusal to give in to the Persians, their desire for freedom and all that sort of thing, it was still a crime against the gods. Killing a herald is completely forbidden. So there must be punishment, and this is a common theme in Herodotus. Whoever you are, if you offend against the gods, you're punished. The Persians do it a lot more than the Greeks, but the Greeks certainly do it. Remember Miltiades, and they get punished. So stop this, have a read through, identify as many key points to the story of Sperthias and Bulis as possible. Good. So there are a few important bits in there, but I think there's some really important ones that I've drawn out on the screen. So I think first of all, it's very interesting to note Sperthias and Bulis volunteer to pay the penalty. So the Spartan plan is to send 2 heralds over to Xerxes, have them executed, kind of formally, and then the problem is balanced out. It's all equal. Spartan heralds have been killed, so the world is at peace again. So a very kind of Spartan approach to the whole thing. And that's always the plan. That's the obvious plan. And Sperthias and Bulis volunteer out of duty to the state. So these 2 Spartiates volunteer to pay the penalty. This is, self-sacrifice. This is duty to the state, patriotism, for want of a better word, complete fearlessness on their behalf. They know exactly what they're volunteering for, and there's no mention of fear or anything along those lines. You compare that to, say, the sort of cowardly Persian masses whipped forward by their officers. This is a very different beast in terms of motivation, manliness, and duty. Now they set off, and they meet a sort of Persian local governor who treats them with, actually a fair degree of hospitality, and asks them, why don't you submit to the great king, and you'll be made unbelievably rich and powerful and famous, and you won't want for anything. And the Spartans say, you don't even know what you're talking about. That you even ask such a question is ridiculous. You are familiar with slavery, not so with liberty. So again, they're pointing out that freedom is worth so much more than any kind of money or sort of political power when there is, especially when there is a great king above you who fundamentally holds all the power. So it is nothing without freedom. Now, the Sperthias and Bulis leave the Persian governor and make their way towards the Persian sort of capital, where they meet Xerxes. And Xerxes rather interestingly refuses to execute them because he doesn't want the crime of executing heralds on his hands. So, he's not completely stupid, and that seems like quite a sensible, logical thing for him to do. And you might think that he would be quite inclined to execute them, because when they're sort of brought into his presence, it's expected that you will prostrate yourself before the great king, throw yourself on the floor, face down, and acknowledge his superiority. And Sperthias and Bulis, when they're brought in before the king, simply refuse to do it, and they say, "It is not our custom to prostrate ourselves before a human." So basically, you do that to gods and not to humans, and you can kill us if you like, but that is not going to change anything. So again, we see bravery, we see a proper understanding of how to worship, and we see the danger of tyranny. Xerxes is being treated as a god, or totalitarian tyranny, and Xerxes is being treated as a god, and it's not right, it's not proper, and it's not natural from a Greek point of view. So great story of Sperthias and Bulis. Now, moving on, again, a nice little story that shows the difference between the Greeks and the Persians. So stop this video and have a read of 7.146 to 6. So 7. Don't know what. Anyway, it'll just be a couple of chapters. I'll clarify that one just to the end of the just to the end of the spy scene. I might just clarify that in the Teams chat or the assignment a bit later on. So I think it's 148. Actually, I better look it up, haven't I? See, doing everything with a Siamese and you're. Yeah, so sorry, 7.146 to 147. So only 2 chapters. So stop, have a read of those, and identify key points. And as always, I've given 3, but I would like you to pick out a few more for your notes. Now make sure, as we do all these things, you're taking notes, you're actually doing the tasks. It's perfectly possible to skip through and not do it properly, but you will pay for that in a year or 2, and Mei will be disappointed in your lack of sense of duty and honour, wouldn't you, Mei? See, you wouldn't want to disappoint Mei. So yeah, make sure you're doing stuff properly. I know it's rough, I know it's tricky, but stick with it. We're almost there. Lovely. Okay, so a bit of a classic story. So the spies, so the Greeks attempt to kind of unite the Greek world. They want to create a sort of a Greek army to oppose the barbarian one, and they send out spies to work out just what's going on with the Persian army. Where is it? How big is it? And obviously, normally you'd be on the constant lookout for enemy spies and kill them to try and prevent them from taking back information, but not so with Xerxes. Now, the Greeks meet up, and a great quote, they're attempting to uniting the Greek world around a common enemy and purpose. So, important that there is this sense of Greek world, and important that they're trying to create common purpose. Now, when Xerxes finds these spies, they're captured by a local sort of governor, and they're about to be executed. And Xerxes hears of this and says, no, we mustn't execute them. So he saves their lives, brings them up to where he is, and then orders his guard to take them on an entire guided tour of his army, pointing out, all the all of the various parts of the army, the strengths, and the numbers, the various peoples, not to hide anything at all from these spies. It's quite good Persian propaganda in a sense. Take back the information of the size and scale and power of this army. So, in one way, it's quite a smart move, but really, I think the story here is hubris. Xerxes again thinks that just the sheer size of his army is all that counts. Just the sheer sort of power that one man can bring to bear is what's going to terrify these Greeks into submission or surrender. He doesn't understand the motivations of fighting for freedom and the significance of it. And he goes on to say, when they hear of the size and scale of my army, they will surrender those peculiar liberties of theirs. So, he thinks of liberties of freedom as just these weird, eccentric little habits that the Greeks have, like, whether you put milk into tea first before the tea, or milk into the teacup first or afterwards. Just things like that some would say are peculiar habits, other would say are fundamental ways of existing. So, what should you put in first? Tea into the mug or milk? Think about that very carefully. So again, this little spy section, a great short little story that tells you so much about the Greeks and about Xerxes and hubris and his understanding of the way the world works. Anyway, so the Greeks have decided they're going to try and unite the Greek world against the Persians. They've sent out their spies, and now they send out a whole series of envoys to some of the key kind of power players in Greece. So what I would like you to do is have a look at this cartilage video, and it's got elements of Greek unity and disunity to it. So he's talking about all of the various people that attempt to join or decide not to. So what we're looking for here is kind of academic quotes from cartilage about the nature of unity, about the nature of Greekness. If he's giving a little bit of factual information, that's great. You can put it in the A3 sheet that goes with this lesson if you want to, but really you're looking for academic and intellectual arguments. So watch that, 9 minutes long, and the usual drill. So you should have the word cartilage, Professor Cartilage, and then 8 or 9, if you can find them, really clear academic arguments that can be used in essays. Now on to everyone's second favourite lecturer, which is Professor Aston. So again, a similar exploration of disunity in unity and disunity in the Greek world, but again, different angles, different ideas, different thoughts. So can you find some differing arguments or depictions or focuses from Professor Aston? So watch this one as well. Now, so a slightly different way of doing things. This is basically a sort of a bit of a research lesson. So if you have a look at the A3 sheet, you'll see what you need to do. I've highlighted for you in some lovely boxes the cities and regions that you need to consider, and the numbers in Herodotus that you need to read to answer the questions. So the questions are basically, what was these cities or states' response to the Greek request for help against the Persians? Did they join the Greeks? Did they delay? What did they do and why? How important was Greek identity and Greek values in their decision? So, what is it that's making them decide to join the Greek side or join the Persian side or stay neutral? Is it money? Is it power? Is it Greekness? Is it religion? Is it fear? Again, Herodotus isn't shy about explaining when people are afraid or greedy or all sorts of bizarre motivations. And finally, what role did they actually play in the war? Again, just a sentence. Now, sometimes it's not actually mentioned, so don't panic too much. But really, the idea is they fought for the Persians, they fought for the Greeks, they pretended to fight for the Greeks, but didn't. Is that kind of thing. So this should take you, a good half an hour to read through and do properly. Sorry, Loki's trying to unplug the laptop for some reason. So this I mean, but by all means pause the video, but this will be a good half an hour. There's a fair bit of reading, there's a fair bit of research. Now, the Macedonian story, I have given you a little bit more than you need, because again, I think that's such a wonderful story that depicts Persian excess and a bit of crazy Macedonian ideas as well. And the Macedonians are interesting because are they Greek or not? The eternal question. Anyway, this could take half an hour, 40 minutes. So pause, stop, do whatever it is that you wish to do. Answer those questions in detail. Lovely. So on to the next thing. Now this will be using the research that you've just done. By all means, read more around it in that area. You're not limited to just the cities I gave you, but I would like you to do a quite different 20-mark essay. So this essay is, to what extent was the Greek response to Persian invasions motivated by a sense of Greek identity? Bit of slightly different sort of essay, and this is a bit more of a Herodotus type thing. Now, the way I'd plan this one is in the first paragraph, I would talk about where it was motivated by Greek identity. So a sense of Greekness or not. You're dealing with Greek identity, but you can say, well, actually, it didn't exist, or existed only partially, or maybe wasn't that significant, or was significant for some cities and not others, blah, blah, blah. I think then you would go on to do a paragraph on another factor. So is it actually freedom, which is, important to the Greeks, but is that the same thing as Greek identity? Maybe you could explore this idea of what is Greek identity. And then for the third paragraph, I would look at another factor. So deal with Greek identity, and you can argue it's significant or not in the first paragraph, and then two other factors, two other things. So, could it be freedom that's actually more important than Greek identity? Could it be, political reality or politics, power politics? Is it about what's going to be best for their city? Is it going to be best for the individuals who are doing the negotiation? It is very much up to you. So, so it's a tricky. Well, I don't know. I don't think it is a tricky essay, but especially doing it, having just done, looked at all these notes and sort of prepared everything. And in the real thing, you might be able to drag in a little bit of Aeschylus that would give you some more to talk through. But it's a valuable essay to do. So this really you can take as long as you want. I will probably make this due in for sort of homework, so I suspect the other stuff in the lesson will probably just take you over the hour-and-a-half mark. But in terms of planning and stuff, that we see through to the end of the lesson. Lovely. Okay, well that is the second lesson done, and I will catch up with you in the next lesson. Take care, guys.